filling in for Councilperson Evans. So here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Debbie, you have everybody is here and names you need for any visitors or anything? Good. Then we'll go on to East Pierce Fire. I guess they're not here today. They're out of the area. They have a report for us where they're groundbreaking on August 22nd. And they have a new fire boat, not a boat on fire, a fire boat for Lake Taps. I said earlier and stuff, which is not like a real fireboat this time. And they're working on their budgets like we all are, and bond coming forward. So anything else about fire? We'll just move right on.
You did send us a presentation.
That's out on Monday.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to discuss on it?
Like,
Then we
it was
will,
just the stats that they normally go.
yeah, I saw that. Okay, we're up to police.
Wow.
It's all yours, right in there, both feet.
Okay. Notes here. So I'm just going to start with some activity at Allen York Park. We've had the last couple of weekends, typically from July 29th to the 31st, and then we'll discuss the 5th through the 7th. I've got several photos of some of the issues that we've been encountering with the parking issues that have been occurring at the park, and we've been trying to remedy this issue. One specifically occurred on July 31st, and it was a gate, an employee gate at next to the basketball court that had been left open, and we must have had 30 cars parked back in there. There's no signage saying you can't park there, so we couldn't impound or cite. So that's just that issue. Not to mention on that specific day, our security let in well over the 400 people we anticipated. We were way over capacity, and we ended up having a large volume of fights and all kinds of stuff as soon as security left. Following weekend, kind of bumped up again. Parking issues occurred as well from the 5th to the 7th. That's Friday through the Sunday. Again, we had numerous cars parked in a variety of places. There's a bunch of pictures here if you wanted to look at them. We ended up in total citing 29 vehicles in basically 4 days' time, essentially. 29 vehicles for parking tickets. And from my stats that I can see, we impounded one from Allen York Park. And we ended up giving numerous warnings because we were running around with our PA system advising people they're going to be ticketed, and then they came back to their vehicles, so we count those as warnings. Just don't have a stat number for you. We have changed things up a little bit at Allen York Park due to this stuff, these parking issues. And one of which is because of what happened on July 29th, we met with city shops, the Pierce County Parks security folks that are down there, the parks, Kramer, Todd Bright, a bunch of folks from the city, to try to come up with some plans on how to better handle and move forward when we have a capacity issue at Allen York Park. And because of the fights and the continuing issues that happened specifically on the 21st, July 21st, we ended up having, on that day, just so you know, we had 4 officers that were tied up there, called in a graveyard officer plus a sergeant, and they were all dedicated to Allen York Park and couldn't put a focus on the calls for service in the city. So that was for hours that they were tied up on that. We ended up trying to come up with a better solution. So the solution is when the park's at capacity, we now have signs out there. Chief Jeter kind of spearheaded this. And we have signs out there that now will be placed out at the entrance of the park, and it's specifically made in the area of Ball Field 4 and by Snack Shack that will indicate park is full. And then if the park is full, they'll call Pierce County Security will call us, and we will have an officer go sit down there. We're letting people out, but we're not letting in more people in. We've also given the Pierce County Security counters, so they can now walk through the park and count heads. They can ensure people are walking in, kind of double count that as well, and make sure that they're keeping track that way, so we have a better head count. And we got them stamps. So the issue was people are going out of the park, grabbing things, and then coming back with a mysterious amount of people because they said they were just in the park. And somebody on the other side of the park, yeah, they were just with me, come on in, So now they have to have stamps when they leave the park, and the ones that come back with a stamp get to come back in. So that's just kind of some of the things that we've done to just try to put an emphasis on trying to bring down the pressure system that seems to occur when we have a bunch of people at the park. We've also been finding a lot of alcohol at the park, bottles over bottles over bottles are being found. So much so that my officers spent the night, 4 bags of garbage they picked up themselves, walked through the park with 4 bags of garbage, spent hours, we have 3 officers that did this, took these bags and threw them away, and a lot of it was alcohol and such. So we met with county security, Pierce County Security again to discuss what's going on. Are they doing bag checks? They say they're doing bag checks, but they can only ask because they're not police. Hey, can we take a look at your bags? And if they're not allowing them to look, then they're asking them to leave. So we're going to help backing them up by, if that's the case and they're not getting compliance, then we'll respond and help out. But we have a 2 officer minimum staffing, and then trying to facilitate that and managing all these different things is challenging. I'm not going to lie, it is challenging. So the other thing that has occurred is we continually keep having our pop-up tents stolen down there. We're supporting Pierce County Security with a pop-up tent, refreshments, first aid kits. We're giving them things, the essentials of what they need to help the community. But these things keep getting stolen. So just as of today, Todd Bright and one of the other city employees, I forget his name, we set up a steel box within a locked area. And it doesn't matter, this locked area has been there for a while, and they've been climbing the fence and stealing stuff. But so we have a steel box now, and in that steel box is where we're keeping everything but the tent. So first aid kits, water, you name it, it's able to house that. And we're hoping to get a larger box, something similar to you would see at a ball field when they have the batting boxes. So something like that would house a tent better for, I think, what we're trying to do. Another thing we've also done is I've given all the sergeants an app on their phone, so that way they can now monitor the park live by their phone. So we can kind of see our sergeants, if they start to see a problem, be a little bit more preemptive if we have the available staff to go there and make that presence and back up Pierce County Security. Another thing that we did is Pierce County Security's agreed to change the park hours from their security being there. They're now going to house a 10-hour shift from 10 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that's going to be their shift. Now it'll be 8 hours shifts, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So they're trying to help facilitate at least a later volume of security presence so we can try to keep this crime abated, because it's a lot of these folks who come here are from other areas and they don't have good intentions in some ways. And so we're trying to make sure we can keep a handle on that with all of us working together. And the last part we did with this is we made a phone tree list and we put everybody, to include security, city shops, myself, Assistant Chief Keller, all of us on this phone tree list so we can communicate with parks, security. We even have now, I think it's their summer help who's going to be helping manage the parking up until 8 o'clock at night. Tonight they're going to be there till 6 because the weather's not quite, as nice as it has been. But they're on weekends they're going to be there till 8, and that's new. That's something that we're just now starting. So between all of us communicating and trying to stay on the same page and making sure that we're trying to put a good front and make it safer for people to be at the park and want to be there, that's the avenue that we're going to make those changes. So as far as the park report goes, those are the changes we've made. That's kind of the events that have taken place. We've also just worked with David Wells today and trying to make sure we do a different job when it comes to high volume events and parking, because we've had some issues with parking when we have our concerts on Wednesdays. When we used to have parking, now we no longer, so people are coming there and they have nowhere to go, so they're parking out in the community. So that's an issue. So we're going to now open up Ball Field 4 and let them park up on the grass as we did last weekend. Not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday when it's going to be hot out, we're going to do the same thing and allow people to do that, so we're not having people parking all over in the community. They can park there. So those are some of the changes we're instituting now and we're working on right now. Jumping into, does anybody have any questions on that?
Good job. What a challenge.
It's a huge challenge, but we're up
We knew it
for
was
it.
going to happen. Good job.
We still have one vacancy we have not filled. We did do oral boards, and when the chief returns, we'll work on filling that position as soon as we can. The other thing is stats for the police department. I don't want to go over every single call for you guys because I don't know if you guys got this or not yet. It looks like some of you guys probably did. So I won't bore you with every call, but as you have seen with our stats, our stats right now, we're about 4,107 calls up from where we should be this time of year, meaning we're about where we would be if we ended the year right now. I mean, we're close to where we would end if it were the end of the year. We're that high up in our call volume, and we're not getting calls that are just your normal small call volume stuff. We're getting calls that are significant, to include myself and the chief having to go out and help on a frequent basis, not only help him cover court, but to help cover these calls. We had 2 robberies it was last week, at July 25th. We had an armed robbery at Safeway with a female who pointed a gun at, she had her waistband pointed a gun at a Safeway employee who tried to confront her. She just pulled it right at her, and that was that. And then Chief Jeter was on scene, and it happened to be that one of the victims or people who were present pointed out, that's the car. So Chief Jeter's like, so he gets behind the car, and a pursuit ensued from there. And eventually they were able to get her and her accomplice stopped, and they did get arrested.
Very good. Okay.
Shortly just after that, we had another robbery at Walmart. This was an assault type robbery where the individual who just got out of prison, I happened to see him the day before and know him from a long time ago doing this job. I questioned him, why are you here? And he's like, just got dropped here from Walla Walla. Great. The next 2 days later, he's in Walmart punching out one of the employees because he's trying to steal goods from Walmart. And it took 4 guys to subdue him and bring him to the ground. So that was a strong arm robbery. And from there, it just keeps going from assaults with a weapon at Walmart. If you have any questions about any of these calls, I can go over them with you if you'd like. I think the stats on the back page that everybody has speaks for itself and where we're sitting right now, which is it's hard for me to even look at, to be honest with you, growing up here in Bonney Lake and being part of this community my entire life. To see the change here, it's pretty astonishing.
What a simple assault.
Simple assault is a 4th degree assault. That is a physical assault, but it could be as minor as somebody just karate chopping you, leaving you bruised, to somebody actually punching you. That could be considered a simple assault. And if you get punched, and depending on the degree of injury, it will escalate. So, yeah, so I mean, we've had quite a bit of
Your property
change
vandalism
here.
is really up to destruction of property and vandalism. That's up huge, 115 over 60.
Yeah, everything
Domestic
is.
violence.
We just had a terrible call a few days ago with an individual who killed himself in front of his family, and our officers had to go to that. And so you just start thinking of all these things that are going on right now, and we're trying to mitigate this the best we can. And when you go back and circle back to the park, we're doing what we can to try to make sure everything kind of comes together and everybody can have a safe evening here in Bonney Lake. And Bonney Lake is not the only agency by any means. Agencies all across the state are experiencing this uptick. I have very close friends at other agencies around the state who have, just told me one thing after the next about their agency's increases and what's happening. So, yeah, it's something we're working on our side. Like I was saying to Councilman Watson here a little bit ago, we can only control what we can control. And that is where my focus is. And that's why we're putting such a strong emphasis on Allen York Park being what it is, but what we know it can be. And that's where we're trying to bring it. And that's our work for right now, along with the city and of itself and making sure everybody's safe. I do have a bunch more stats here if anybody's interested over the parking violations and that kind of thing. I think we touched on all the communication stuff we're trying to work through with the park. So what I've got to report.
Well, good job. What you have to work with is a real challenge.
This was the most
Sure.
downloaded money transfer app
Sorry.
of 2021.
Are you
I was
getting
trying to
bored? Are you
look up
bored
that
over there?
document. No. I was trying to look up the document for the safety committee for the mayor. Who knew that
It was
King
fun.
5 was going to start talking?
Good job. Thank you. Appreciate
I
it.
apologize.
Tell anyone you run into in your department, we appreciate the hard work.
Thank you.
I do have one question.
Absolutely.
Can you give the stats on that kidnapping? What was that for June?
The kidnapping for June,
Was that in there?
I'm not familiar with that one off the top
Okay.
of my head. I would have to research that one because that was not one of them that
Into.
I could get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm gonna wait for a little further down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got your plan,
Mhm.
huh? Okay. Then we're going on to energy management.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm
Hello,
good. How are
Good.
you?
Wonderful. Good to see you.
Ooh, good to see you too.
You know.
Mine's not nearly so heavy.
Oh.
Thanks for going first.
Regine's turn.
So, I mean, really good news. Working on. We got ours in last month. Everybody else got their stuff in. They've asked me to do a final edit over formatting and stuff this week. So should be ready for distribution probably next week. So that's like a big celebration for us. We have officially started work on our regional comprehensive emergency management plan now. So we had our first planning meetings about 2 weeks ago, right near the end of July. So that'll be moving. Final draft is due to the state by the end of December 2023. We have some time to work on it, but it's a pretty active process. It'll take time to get through it. You'll hear a lot more about it as we go. We did, since we met last time, when we met a month ago, we were pretty happy we had gotten our emergency management committee together to start talking about organizing the EOC team and kind of getting everyone on the same page. So that was great. We've now met a couple times. And so since then, the EOC team has now met, and we've gotten them up and moving. Obviously, this report covers July, but as of today, we've actually had our second meeting now as well. Really great attendance. Everyone's super pumped to do some training and some exercising. So they're onward and upward. So we are meeting monthly, and then quarterly they're doing exercises. So like September's meeting will be a little longer and it'll be exercise focused. Trying to get everybody acclimated to being in there and used to some of the terminology and processes, and it's been really good. One thing that I included in this report, because I want to make sure that as you all see reports coming out of the EOC, we're all on the same page for activation levels. So in the report, it talks about level 3, 2, and 1. And so these levels are consistent with all local, county, state, and federal partners. So 3 being like steady state, standard operating process. Maybe there's something coming in and I'm keeping an eye on it. And maybe I'm even taking action on it, but it doesn't require a full, an activation of the EOC. A level 2 being a partial activation. So I might have someone like AC Boyle helping me with PIO work, or I might need finance involved on something. So it's, minimal staffing in the EOC, but we are, responding to an incident worthy of us hanging out together and coordinating, right? So more than, I would say, 2 to 3 departments needing to coordinate. That level 1 being a full activation, and this is usually when we start seeing probably all the departments coordinating, more folks in the EOC. Maybe we're looking at more, we call operational periods, so we might be in there for a couple days, so larger events, maybe a snow and windstorm or something like that moves in that requires more attention. So I'm just trying to make sure that everyone's on the same page with those activation levels. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. But I want to make sure as y'all are getting reports and such that you know what the activation level means.
You mentioned about snow. How involved will you be in snow? Because sometimes we've got some really dangerous weekends or weeks and stuff, so.
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, it's my hope. Right now, I'm building relationships and building plans and so forth, and so it's my hope that I will be involved in those processes because I do have networks with, National Weather Service and some of the other agencies that are part of that ahead of time, the preparedness process and the response process. And so Ryan Johnstone and I work together a lot on planning, and so he and I are already kind of talking about utilizing the EOC more in that process.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of response, we had just minimal response to the heat incident that we had come through here. We found a draft policy, so it wasn't anything that had been processed fully, but there had been a draft policy initiated by Woody a couple of years ago that stated that if the heat index was going to be over 101 degrees for 3 days or longer, we would initiate a cooling center. So since we don't have anything else in place right now, and it was going to be hot, and it was looking like probably longer than 3 days, we did go ahead and stand up a cooling center. We only had one person utilize that cooling center, but it was worth it. I mean, Senior Center got a good exercise out of it, and so it was good practice. We were able to request a pallet of water in from the county, so we were able to distribute extra water to police, all the different public services divisions. We gave some to finance and court in case anyone came in off the street and was looking like they were needing some water. And we still have, I think, 18 cases as of today that are just in case. So we're hanging on to them just in case we need them. We're not out of the summer yet. So, yeah, the rest of this report is really was geared towards my EOC team, but probably the last thing that I would just point out to you is that the health department has now activated for monkeypox. So we are not making any movements in that direction, but you will probably start hearing and seeing reports coming down the chain from partners because they're doing weekly reports on it. So just in case, there's your heads up. Do you have any
Interesting.
questions? Yes.
We had to wear masks for COVID. We got rubber gloves for monkeypox here coming
I
up.
don't know.
Touching people.
I think we're just going to end up wearing like big bubble suits or something. Yeah. Do you have any
Interesting.
questions
No.
about anything else in the report?
I do. I had a
Yeah.
couple of questions. Okay, I think the first question I had is, do we do any kind of, I just recently heard, because my husband does work for a different police department, but do we ever do any kind of like a mass casualty event training for police officers or just first responders in general?
I don't know the answer to that yet.
Okay.
So sometimes emergency management's involved in that, sometimes they
Okay.
aren't, and so Chief Jeter and I haven't had a chance to talk through that.
Okay.
Um,
I was just curious. Yeah.
yeah,
It
and
seems
that's
very
on
interesting.
the mass casualty
Uh-huh.
side of it, yeah.
Okay.
I will say we are looking at doing a mass care side of it, so
Okay.
like mass sheltering
Okay.
versus casualty, but
Okay.
we haven't got to the mass casualty component yet.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
The other question I had is, and I've talked to you about this before and mentioned it in other meetings as well, but how is the communication, because you said, you went through all the trouble, if you will, of like setting up a cooling center so people aren't hot, only one person utilized
Yeah.
it. But I know there were people that would have wanted to utilize it. So I guess my question is, how are we getting, the word out to the community? That I feel like it's always, like an issue, of trying to get the word out as best as possible.
I feel like communication is the number one thing in any after action report. It's always that number one thing, right? Like it's
Yeah.
internal or external.
Yeah.
For this event, it was all over the social medias. We did utilize the website. We turned on a function. It was, what do I call it, Chuck?
It's like an alert function.
It's like an alert pop-up function. So
Okay.
if somebody went to the website, it
would
I
be
saw that
auto-popped
when I
up.
went on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had to take action and close it, or you couldn't do your business on the website.
Okay.
That is what we utilized this time.
Okay,
Sadie is now back in town, so we're
Okay.
prepared to do our final, to get the emergency management website updated so
Okay.
with the Bonney Lake Alert component,
this thing, right?
but ours.
Okay.
Yes, so that's the county's, right?
This is
So
different.
that's the county one, and the
Okay.
code red that we talked about before, that Bonney
Right.
Lake Alert that's in there, that's
Mhm.
our version.
Okay,
And so as soon as I can get the website live,
Yeah.
so we'll be ready to do that this week.
okay,
We can have folks register,
okay,
and that's how I would prefer to send the message out.
okay.
It will take time to
Right,
get the
to get
public registered.
As many people,
Yeah.
okay. Do you know if there is a plan in place as far as getting as many people maybe going to elementary schools, and having, kids take home a paper, because I feel like those papers I looked at, when my
Yeah,
little kids
there's
would
a
bring,
couple different,
you look through
yeah.
the papers to
Yep.
check,
there are a couple different ones, because there are the papers and then there's Peach Jar.
Okay,
And so deciding which way to go.
okay,
And so we have a meeting coming up with the school district soon. I
Okay.
don't have the date,
okay,
because they want to start planning regular evacuation exercises
Yes.
after that Lahar one
Right.
that we did.
right,
And so communication with them is actually one of the components we were going to.
okay,
So I just don't know. I know with the White River District, we would have to go through Peach Jar. So I
okay.
don't know what.
Could the district send something out that isn't necessarily Peach Jar? Like, for example, I would look at Peach Jar on occasion, but
Right, I don't
be
look
like,
at it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think, but if the district
Yeah.
sent out just a standard
I'm hoping
email,
the Sumner Bonney Lake will just let us do a flyer
Okay.
and call it done.
okay,
Because the flyer we can also have translated.
okay,
So, and that is one of the things that we put in our budget request was funds for translation.
okay, great.
So
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
it's moving. We're
Yeah.
not there yet, but we're it's
Okay.
like one bite of the elephant.
Right.
So are you working with them for something on their website then? Because, I watch an awful lot when we have listed weather advisory schools being closed,
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and that's where so many go to.
To the district
Districts,
page.
yeah, their main page, and they're real good about updating what's happening, especially when they close school, and that's where I go to for anything, big
So,
schools.
is your question, so ours started with the cooling center. Are you thinking like if we had a cooling center, putting it on the district site or anything?
Anything that would involve a
Okay.
family member
Okay.
or families,
It's
especially.
an interesting point. Yeah, I will bring it up at the meeting. I think the biggest question we have with them is just what's the best avenue to communicate with their families.
Mhm.
None of us want to have to duplicate efforts. So,
Yeah.
if it's getting them registered into our Bonney Lake Alert system so they're getting the notifications and then they can share that, sometimes that's the easiest way to go about that. But
Cooling Center, I saw it on the police page right
Mhm.
away.
Yep.
Then we got it. It wasn't on our city's Facebook
it
page.
took a minute.
I reposted it, then my
Yeah.
information onto a couple of city sites,
Yeah.
community sites. So.
Yes, it took a minute. Leslie was out that day, so I ended up having Sadie do it. But I sent the info to a few people at a time, and so the chief was just faster on the draw.
Yeah, all over it.
Yeah. Yes. Any other questions? Okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
My turn?
It's all yours, Dan.
All right, thank you. I'll try to keep this brief. At the beginning, I have a summary of all the different hearings that our office appeared on. Just some of the highlights. We had a total of 38 arraignments, so those are new cases, charges being filed. We had 129 pretrial hearings, so those are cases that have already been arraigned. We're in the process of negotiating either a resolution or eventually it may be set to trial. So total, we had 390 hearings that we appeared on. That's slightly lower than June when we had 452. That's probably in part due to 4th of July falling on a Monday, so we lost one of our larger court days. And then the other things that we're working on, we've been working a lot on the body-worn camera, learning about evidence.com. Last time we met, the public defender's office was not yet set up to receive the body-worn camera videos via evidence.com. She has now gotten with her own IT person, and she's set up a mobile hotspot in her office downstairs. So she's now able to electronically receive all of the discovery we're sending through evidence.com. So this means we're not having to download everything and burn it to a CD or USB drive in order to provide it to the public defender. And the bulk of our cases are with the public defender. For private attorneys, we're still working with each individual private attorney to get them to sign a consent to electronic discovery under the court rules. We just can't send it to them. They have to agree to it. So far, we haven't, I don't think the issue is that they don't want it electronically. I think it's more, it's a task they haven't gotten around to yet, but we are slowly gathering those. And then at the last council meeting, I think it was a couple weeks ago, council approved entering the contract with Prosecutor by Carpel. That's an electronic file management system. Our anticipated go live date for that software is December 12th. And that's going to enable us to have all of our files electronically so we can access them really quickly. If a case is added to the calendar last minute, we can access it if whether we're in court or we're working from home. And also that software is integrated with evidence.com, so it's going to make it a lot easier for us to immediately view the body-worn camera photos or surveillance and also send it to defense attorney. And it's fully CJIS compliant. Any questions?
Mm-mm.
So it was down last month over over June. So is that, what kind of trend do you have for the year?
It's
Is
just
it
like the
all over?
police, so we're going up.
They're going up and up?
I'm just started doing the monthly
Because I haven't
reports,
paid attention to
tracking
these before, so I was just wondering.
Yeah, so I'm starting to track it. I think the big thing is we've had about a 30% increase in number of court days because prior to this year, we used to have at least, court was generally Mondays and Wednesdays, but one of those days would be a half day, and one of those days we would not have court at all because it was set aside as a jury trial day, but we very, very rarely had jury trials, so we wouldn't have, your arraignments and pre-trials that day. This year, we no longer have that. We have court every Monday, Wednesday. Trials have generally been on a Tuesday or a Friday. And then on Tuesdays, we've added the score and custody hearing. So now we have court Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays due to the score and custody the custody hearings being on a Tuesday. So it's up the number of days of the week that we need prosecutor coverage and also lowered, the amount of time we have to negotiate with defense attorneys or meet with victims. And part of the score and custody hearings, SCORE doesn't have availability on Mondays or Wednesdays because if you're like
Are you referring to like SCORE jail?
Yeah, SCORE jail
Yeah,
up
there,
north.
right away.
So cities like I think Peoria and Des Moines, they paid in at the very beginning when SCORE was being built, and so they basically have first dibsies on hearing dates and hearing times, and so Mondays and Wednesdays are most ideal. So we have Tuesdays and Fridays as our score and custody hearing days of the week. Fridays are definitely not ideal so far. I don't think we've had an actual one on a Friday, but we still have to have staff coverage available for Friday. But we have been doing them pretty regularly on Tuesdays. So SCORE will take a defendant who has like more involved medical or psychological issues going on. Like there have been defendants that'll be rejected from other jails and they can be, SCORE will take them. And also if the other jails are full, SCORE is another place that we can take a person.
I have a question, I'm not sure how to word it. So we're having a real problem with the police. They're picking somebody up and they're arresting them, and then because the jail won't take them,
Yeah.
they're getting released back out.
Mm-hmm.
How is that affecting you, the ones that are being brought back to you to prosecute? What's going on? You get the same problem?
It affects us too because one of the big, I guess, sticks that we have when negotiating with the defendants, really their defense attorney, is jail. As either hey, depending on the situation, you can negotiate, hey, do this treatment, come once a week and do UAs. But if you fail at doing that, you're going to go to jail for a really long time. And if we don't have, you've got the carrot and the stick kind of approach, and if that threat of jail isn't there, it really makes, what are we doing in terms of a sentence for these people? Yeah, it's really hard.
Are you using Yakima anymore?
Yes, they just opened a couple weeks ago.
Okay, good.
But they were
That was
closed.
always a great place for it to take. We had taken some place.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but they will only take people that have a sentence, I think, over, is it
30.
30? Okay.
And we only have so many beds in the
Right.
jails.
Right,
So once
just-
those are full,
Yeah, just like an employee, you
Yeah,
what,
and,
six
and we've also
or
had,
something like that.
I mean, we had issues where people show up and they say they were, I mean, this doesn't happen as much now, but they would show up and say they were exposed to COVID, so they wouldn't get booked. So we've had some people that are well known that have, they do have some significant mental health issues. A lot of the jails wouldn't take them.
Those are the ones
It's a
that
problem.
need
Yeah,
to take
It's a real
it.
problem.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're putting that problem back out in
Yeah,
society
yeah,
we
they
just
just
talked about.
get released out on the street. Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, it is.
I have a question then. I know in my conversations with Chief, there's, when I'm asking them what is the biggest issue in regards to just jail and bookings, and it is the COVID restriction. So, and I have read through some of Patty Jackson. Yeah. And some of just the statements that have been released. The words. Is there something that we can do as a council with this issue? Do we talk with Pierce County Council? I feel like, again, this is another issue that's above us. So then my question is, what is the action that can be taken to let them know that, there seems to be a priority over criminal safety over victims. So I'm just, who can we talk?
So,
Who can we knock on the door?
Good luck.
I've been thinking about setting up a meeting with each of the jails and going and meeting them and talking to them in person about these issues.
Okay.
I think the only other thing, my understanding is SCORE jail is going to be the best option in terms of a jail that will take somebody that other jails won't.
Mm-hmm.
They
Costs
are
us
very
more money
expensive.
though. Yes.
But criminals also don't like going there, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So
If you threaten SCORE, they don't want to go to SCORE.
they don't like Yakima either, but we have to
Yeah, I know that.
give them at least 30 days for that
Yeah.
one.
so yeah, I can meet with them and I can get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're on to AB 22. That's
All right,
you again?
That's me again.
You're
All
back
right.
on.
So the state legislature amended basically the protection order laws, and now they're under RCW Chapter 7.105, and additionally, the Cybercrime Act was amended. It added the crime of cyber harassment, and it just moved cyber stalking, has a different RCW number. These were all but the cyber harassment, which is new, we had already adopted in our code. It's just basically changing which RCW number we're referencing. For clarity of jurisdiction over misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors, the recommended practice is that we formally adopt. That way the jurisdiction is clear between city versus county. So really this is just scratching out the old RCW numbers and updating them. Arguably under Bonney Lake Municipal Code 9.01.030, we kind of had already adopted them because it does reference when there's a change or an amendment that we automatically adopt it. But because they changed the whole RCW number, it wasn't like they just, changed a comma in it. They changed the whole number. The best practice, recommendation from staff would be to adopt the new ones in the
The wording's all changed and stuff. The wording with that has been changed too, or just the numbers?
It was mostly the numbers. There's some changes in the language, but it's nothing that's really affecting our practice.
Okay.
Added, moved the cyber stalking, and then they cyber harassment.
Can you give us an idea of what they mean by cyber harassment?
So that would be like, it could be something like on a Facebook message, like, threatening somebody.
Okay.
We haven't had one that I've been able to charge yet.
Okay.
because it's hard to prove. So far, at least the fact patterns I've seen, it's been hard to show a connection to Bonney Lake.
Oh, okay,
That's-
because
that's
it's
the-
online.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if, ideally the victim would be in Bonney Lake when receiving the message. That's so far.
Oh,
They were
okay.
outside the city, happened to work in the city, and then reported it when they were inside the city.
Is the harassment standard the same as if you were harassing somebody person to person? Or the reason why I'm asking is because I think sometimes harassment is a tricky line to walk on because, you know, people are entitled to their own opinions that often can be offensive to somebody. And then someone could then say, oh, that's harassment.
We're,
Yeah.
we're looking at like very clear, like death, like bodily
Okay,
harm.
so
This
there's
isn't-
some
this isn't
threats
like,
to, okay.
you know, I like this politician, you like
Okay.
that one. This is not where we're.
Okay, good. Okay. I just wanted to verify
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Anthony, we go to consent agenda, this one? Is this
Yeah, move it on down. Mm-hmm.
And it is on the consent agenda
for tonight?
Oh, it
tonight.
is.
Yeah,
Okay.
just
Okay.
to make sure we adopt the code
Okay.
as soon as possible.
Okay.
So we need to take a vote on that.
Sounds good.
Everybody in favor of that? On consent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
which it is tonight, okay. Cool. Minutes, any other corrections of minutes? I didn't find anything when I went through them. Good job, Debbie.
Woohoo.
There we go. Home discussion. We've got some visitors here. Did you have some comments to talk to us about? Give your name, please, for Debbie.
Yes, my name is Nancy Land. It's all interesting to hear every time because there's just so much. It is interesting to hear that this is a public safety meeting, and yet we're hearing about parking and the impact that the park has on the police department. And one of the questions that we've kind of talked about here is, was this ball field at Allen York, was that part of the included or considered in the 2015 comprehensive plan update? Was that part of the strategic plan for the city?
A ball field was,
A ball field,
correct.
not necessarily that particular.
Not that
one, but-
particular location, but yes.
So
We moved it over there from the regular, from
ex-
the large one. So
expand
we had a
that.
grant that we wanted to use for future grants in the future. If we turned that grant that was given to us, turned it down, we may jeopardize future growth, which, as they all know, I'm in favor of having ball fields over at Midtown Park behind Fred Meyer's. And through the number of years, I've always said no to some ball fields down there. This is my personal opinion. And other brass mayor and stuff really wanted something down there. So my vote went to go this last time to approve this so we could get more fields later on, even though we knew it was going to be a challenge. That's my personal opinion.
Because as we look at everything that's impact that this project is having, it's only going to get worse down at Allen.
Yes, you're correct.
As we continually tell people, we live on the lake, and when the pandemic happened, the lake is where they came, and they will continue to come. We monitor and voters groups, so we hear the frustrations that they have. We're going to talk. Still campaign for signage. There's still not any signage down at the Allen York Park about the fact that the launch was closed temporarily to just citizens. They still don't know that. There's still, some people are just still waking up and going, can't get, launch my boat. And they don't know what to do with their cars at all. There's no signage down there for them. And just the impact that it has on the public safety group that as we look at it, we're wondering why police departments are involved with the parking issue. It seems like there would be a different way to do it that doesn't impact that group that you really need out doing other things. But we weren't here when the properties to the north of the park were available, what decision it was made not to expand the park that way. But I'm just wondering strategically, You've seen the aftermath of this decision and the impact that it's had on various groups in the city about what's being thought of to avoid this in the future, because it's only going to get worse. I mean, is it going to be continually keeping the park at a limitation? Because the pressure is coming. And as, is it Officer Boyle?
Well, yeah.
Chief Boyle, just the chief?
You can call me whatever you want.
Okay. Chief Boyle.
We've used it.
Your chief is gone, so Chief Boyle. It's only going to get worse if the people don't come from, are not city residents. There was even a rumor out on the page, and we shut it down by directly asking council. The rumor was that the park was going to be only made available to Bonney Lake citizens. We don't even think that's possible.
No.
And of course, we try to squash those and try to get people to good information. But I just
We
wondering
appreciate
what-
that, by the way.
What's
Yeah,
that?
thank you.
We appreciate that,
Appreciate
Nancy.
that.
Thank
Keep
you.
controlling.
You would be surprised, as former government employees, what we've learned, how people do not know how to use the website. They don't know everything's done by survey. If they have a question about whether or not I can launch my boat, they basically ask the people, and then they just count the number of people that says yes or no, and that's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, for 4 months out of the year, the city of Bonney Lake has 1/3 of the lake. They become a lake community, whether you want to be or not. So what's being planned to give that public access, more access to the lake? Because there are only 2 areas on the whole lake that the public can get access, and that's North Park and York.
I'm normally not on this committee this present time. In the past, I have been for years and had discussed it a long time. These 2 ladies on this committee, they worked very diligently trying to get you, or the citizens, more parking and things changed. They've worked real hard so we can do with it. It's been a problem for a long time. The park is too small for the growth of our cities. I've worked in the past trying to find some ways to dissect the area for a road to go around it. And that's very expensive, but there's a couple ways to look at. You got wetlands to worry about, and the cost is real challenging for us that way too. So my only plan, and these other ladies have some more ideas too, is I want to get it all moved, putting the field out there back to Midtown and turn that into a parking lot so it can be a play area and get more of a younger adults playground and stuff over at Midtown Park. And then you'll have more space and more parking. These ladies have worked real hard to get more for a ball field for there, which is just a ball field. They're getting for next year a regular parking area out there, trying to get that taken care of. They worked real hard with that, so that would help for next year. But as soon as those apartments get opened up, we have another problem right there. It's going to be a real problem for us.
Exactly.
We are aware of that, and there's really not any good answers. You've heard all the things he's been doing. His crew has been trying to maintain it. And it's very expensive. I mean, we got the security down there, which we never really budgeted for. And it's going to be our new budget coming forward. And every time they have those officers down there, they only have usually about 4 on duty at a time. And they end up with 2 or 3 down there who's watching the city. It's a real challenge for us. And just to get through the summer, and we take a deep breath when it's all done. I don't know if you ladies want to add to her comments.
Well,
Yeah. Oh, did you? Yeah.
we are, eventually the Public Works is going to move into the bigger building, across from the new building across from Home Depot. All of those buildings are going to be removed, and those are also going to be additional parking. And I've asked Ryan and Jason to look into whether any of the wooded areas could possibly be turned into additional parking. Eventually, the decant station, which is one of the pictures that they were showing next to the tennis courts, that will be removed and put over near the Public Works building. That decant can hold some more cars, which would be additional parking for cars. Ball field 4 will be turned into, and that extra parking lot will be turned into boat launch parking. Specifically, we are looking at adding bars that can count how many spaces there are, and it won't open or let you go in and park if it's full. You won't even be able to launch your boat. So hopefully we can get a bar or something that can talk to the parking lot so they will know when it's full and no more boats. Possibly some more boat parking up at the old Public Works area as well, because they do have truck parking back behind some of the buildings. So that's another area that we can look at as well.
The old city hall
And-
buildings will come down.
Yeah, the
too.
old city hall building is coming down, so that will be car parking. It's just a matter of like, even if because we're adding 120 parking spots with the ballpark. But if that ballpark is being used, then there's going to be
It's going to be
people watching the game. There's going to be parents, so those parking stalls are going to be full. So it's just a matter of trying to get as much new parking as possible. Not planning on adding any more parks, no more play areas to Allen York Park. All of that's going to be dedicated to finding parking so that people have places to go, because especially in the summer, it's always going to be a problem no matter what. But
And expand.
yeah,
So is there anything was there any thought in the strategic plan of expanding the actual waterfront side of it?
Yeah.
we can't because we don't own any of that property also.
But as it
I mean,
becomes available, was there any, I strategically just plan for, when, if it's an
If something
opportunity, and I
comes
don't know how it happens at.
The lake has given us rights to have
Yeah.
access to it in that little section there, but we have no property at all along the lake that belongs to the city at all.
No, but
Question is though, the city has eminent domain. Can acquire property if it so desires, has a public domain. So the question is, you have an oversubscribed park with a problematic boat launch, adequate parking, and decisions have been made, to move forward. And I think that the acceptance of the grant to build that ball field was. Now you've got this turmoil, and it's reflected in what the police department is called upon to do. So you just mentioned like 10 or 12 different, we're going to add parking here, we're going to demolish this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And the question always comes back to, what's the plan?
The
I spent
plan is,
27 years in the
plan is
Army.
no new parks
No, but the
and
question,
new
the question
parking.
is, what is the plan?
Mhm.
We don't have to worry about that because we own property on the lake, own boat launch. But now we're speaking for the rest of the community. What the rest of the community wants to know is, what is the plan? Comprehensive plan. Park department is supposed to have a comprehensive plan element as part of the comprehensive plan. Council approves that. And the question is what specifically you're going to do, and then communicate it to somebody other than us. We take it, and Councilmember Watkins,
what's that's okay.
we've been to every meeting except one since last October. You have an interest. I've been appointed to the Pierce County Voting Advisory Commission. Yesterday, we attended by Zoom a meeting of the annual report of what they're facing. There are 4 members who reside on Lake Tapps as part of that advisory commission. We're looking at a whole different issue other than the park. But for your community, city of Bonney Lake and the community, you have to communicate this to the rest of the community. And my suggestion is that write down everything you just said about, we're looking at this, we're looking at that, we're looking at technology, and we're looking at control and access. Put it in a plan. Move that forward and then budget to that plan.
That's what we're doing. It's going into this year's budget.
But
So
my point is, write it down and tell the rest of the community, this is what we're doing to solve this problem.
We've had a plan that we put together about 5 or 6 years ago. We had another company take care of for us, put together. It has changed dramatically from what we did 6 years ago. So going forward, we'll have a new one in the future. But right now, we can't just put a plan out there. This is what we're going to be doing. We have to have a consultant tell us what's the right thing for the city. And then you've got 5 council members, 7, maybe we have 7.
Yeah.
To change it.
Yeah.
And back to your eminent domain you talked about, I know a number of council members are going to say no to that, and I agree with. I don't like to take over property. That's a real that's a person's personal property. Another council member was concerned about us not allowing a certain thing to be built in the city area. Did they own the property? Well, he or she said they should be able to build there. Well, we have to make some logical decisions for a city to not allow certain things in certain spots. So you've got council members that really care about people, their own viewpoints forward, and not allowing or don't want to do that.
Yeah, I have been in conversation with Chief Jeter and asking him, what are the practical things we can do instead of just talking about what to do. And so I did talk with Deputy Mayor Carter and also Public Works Director Ryan Johnstone. And I'm proposing that we create an agenda bill because I don't think we can wait for the comprehensive plan. Government works like snails. No offense, everybody, but it just does. And so I am proposing that they work on an agenda bill that would be able to have a park consultant come now, not later, not when the comprehensive plan is decided or figured out, and come up with a full strategic plan for Allen York now. And so And one of the things that I was talking about with Ryan and also Deputy Mayor Carter is the potential for us to use ARPA funds. I feel like citizens, we just keep going in a circle and we're like, oh yeah, let's put a Band-Aid on here. Let's put some ointment over here. And it's not working. And so, and that's why the problem every summer is getting put on the police department and security personnel who aren't police officers. Let's be honest, like people know that security has they have no anything. And so that's why you get the people out there that are really icky. And so Chief Jeter is more than willing to work alongside with a park consultant with Ryan to try to figure out just ways into the park, out of the park, restructuring the road. Even if the park consultant says it's going to cost this much money, we need something. And then we have to decide which pieces, we want to or can financially do, especially with some of the bond stuff that we've been talking about. If there's potential, instead to flood that into Midtown, which I am fully on board with Midtown. I think that is a great idea, but we have to fix Allen York. It's a huge problem. And so I don't know how to move that forward. I've already been talking with, Terry Carter, Ryan Johnstone, Chief Jeter, but we need this on an agenda bill to hire a park consultant to talk to us about what is going on.
Well, that would be worth bringing up too at our next workshop and stuff also.
Okay.
It'll probably come out of this committee, probably.
Okay.
Because you guys are overseeing what's going on the park commission,
Uh-huh.
but then also get the rest of the council involved to support what you have idea we can push through faster
Okay.
than waiting for things in the future.
Okay, because
And
then we
I
would
would
have to
support
wait for another public safety meeting, correct? Because that will be another month from now, that we'll be deciding on whether to
It
say,
depends on what you put together. It could be at a workshop, our
Yeah.
next workshop. This
Yeah.
is what I put together,
yeah,
or we have put together.
right.
This is what potentially will cost us for this,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what we want to move forward with. That doesn't have to come out of here,
Okay,
but somebody has to assemble it in some group.
Right.
But
okay,
normally it would come to here, you would assemble it and come forward. This is what public safety has put together for the issues problem.
right, okay.
So
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay,
because part of that Midtown Park is all the concert stuff would move over there too. There'd be
Mm-hmm.
nothing going on down there, all the events but
But
It would
the
be
lake is
expensive.
always going to be the draw in
Yeah,
the
I mean,
summer,
I would like-
regardless.
I would like to
but-
bypass that whole
Yeah.
section so people can't drive through there at all. It's my goal.
So, I appreciate it. Everyone's we're both advocates of getting the right people doing the right thing. And my recommendation is get the police department out of the engineering and the business. That's not, those are engineers, those are planners, those are your city administrators. I hear so often there's so much responsibility being placed on the police department, and it's not their job. They shouldn't be checking backpacks or down there helping with parking or deciding where a road goes. You have people in your city who are hired to do that work.
We do
Those are
not.
Your engineers and
We
your
do not.
planners and your city administrator. they should be lifting this off your plate, you know, because anything that involves more than one department, that's the city administrator throwing the big lasso out and saying, here, bring it to my table and let me get the department directors at the table. Let's solve this for you. You guys, you know, you're the policy making business. You shouldn't have to be solving your operational problem.
That would be coming forward to our budget this next year, where we would add more personnel to the city, which is already a challenge for us, the cost of that. You know, police is already asking for about 5 new officers. Very expensive. That money is not readily available to us for funding in the future. We have ARPA funds from the government that's given for a short time fix. For the long time is what I'm concerned about, 10 years down the road, having to pay for that. We have one person that oversees our parks area. He's maintained out, used to have 2 or 3 out there. He had summer help, and he had down to 1 person right now. And so the personnel to help, we have no one trained to really take care of that. We have hired the Pierce County security doing it for us. They are assisting Pierce County Security. And now we have summer help that's helping out too, that does clean up our parks. Those people are helping. But right now, we as qualified staff, and we have no one else to do it in our city. And we have a lot of people, regulations who can do what in our city. We have unions to work with also. So all of that comes forward into our budget next year and what we're going to do. And adding more full-time, part-time people. We will the ones who approve it, nobody else will. They have to bring it forward to us. So that's all.
So, I used to be the public works. We had a parks department, parks director, reported to me at one. Got her out, got her promoted, so she's parks director. As one other person working. You're saying that Bonney Lake doesn't have a parks director?
We have one that oversees other areas of the city, not just a parks director, no.
So, and I heard a really good idea to move forward. My understanding of the process, kind of only having done this for 20 or 30 years, there's a whole bunch of plans, public works plan, transportation plan, elements of the city's comprehensive plan. Parks plan is one of those elements. What I've heard is they want to solve the Allen York problem, but it also involves this Midtown and other ball fields and other activities, so forth. And what you're really talking about doing is updating the element, the parks element of the city's comprehensive plan. The last time that parks element was done was 2015, and it was done by a consultant.
Something like that, yeah.
Who did the consultant report to?
Brought to council
Directly to the council?
for us to see and to approve. Who else is going to do it?
Want to be a city council?
A real challenge.
Well, I mean, it's got to be a challenge because it's an administrative function to get a contract in place, to select a consultant contract, direct that consultant on a regular basis and so forth. It's got to be a really challenging job.
We have to find the money to pay for the consultant. Right now, we paid a consultant to help look at our water charges, water and sewer charges. $25,000 for that,
Yeah.
for that one.
You said,
And to help see if we're charging,
is FCS doing that project for you?
oh, man, it could be. But that's, and just like anything else, we have to go to a consultant that we approve to pay for. Consultant comes back to us, which we did away with our parks plan before. This is what's going to cost. And then the council then has to approve, can we do that? Where's the money coming from? If we want to do everything that I would like to do in Midtown Park, then it costs us $53 million, $52 million, which we can't do all at once, obviously. But that's what we really need to do. But we're working on ideas that right now. So before you get out of here, this council could approve a B&O tax. I'm not sure how the whole council thinks about it right now, but obviously I'm in favor of that. Taking all that B&O tax for larger businesses only and to pay for parks and personnel, which you're asking for. So according to one of our council members who's very good at figuring these math numbers out for us, that would help give us, what is it, $20 million? I'm guessing, top of my head. I'm not real good at keeping those facts in my head, but Justin Evans said about $20 million we could raise over a period of time to get what
20.
you're wanting to do with more personnel, start getting the parks going, and someone to help to maintain them. So those are things that we are working on right now We know it's a problem. You know, I've been in Bonney Lake since 95 and learning, I was a council member for 10 years, it takes forever to get things done properly. I'm trying to get money to pay for more sidewalks. We've got $1 million, part of it getting taken care of. I got one more I'm hoping to do the year after next. Those just doesn't go easy, especially when you start adding more personnel into the mix.
For the record, I'm asking for the bodies who work to go where they're most appropriate.
I would
Or
agree.
decide about engineering pieces or parking fees.
Our police chief is very good with his years of experience, help given these council persons who are new to it. These ladies are new and they're doing a great job digging in both feet, not just sitting back and, well, what's going on next? They're trying to make a difference.
That's a good
And
department
other,
director.
yeah,
But it doesn't mean he necessarily has to for his personnel.
but,
That body work.
right, but he can give these ladies good advice to bring to this group here, to bring to the full council. You're welcome, and thank you for your opinions.
Yeah.
I mean, when we were here in January and the first word was spoken that there for the voting season, could have told you all this was going. And we were surprised that it had been at least a year that people knew that that happened, that nothing really was like, we didn't all get to a table. You know, you got the emergency management person in the room. She could have probably told you, you're gonna have an emergency.
She's
on your
new
hands,
too,
and that's
so
where you
it's,
are right now.
you know, we had a
Well,
mayor.
semi-park emergency.
Yeah, we had a mayor who was leaving then too, so we got a switch over is going to be a challenge too. Our new mayor doing a great job. He's learning, so he's getting his feet wet and what to do. So we've gone through a transition, but you've got solid council members, you have a solid mayor, you've got a great staff. Where as fast as someone leaves and goes somewhere else, we'll get someone hired, get them trained. So I think we're on the right track. August says give us another to next summer. Hopefully we'll make a difference. With these ladies here, we will make a difference.
The observation on this, the general comment. The inavailability of the Allen York boat launch. Obvious consequences are we're still getting on the lake. Still crazier than hell. One of the observations is there's 7 maintenance companies around the lake, public launches at the north and south ends. What's happening is people are lining up between people going into the maintenance company or the HOAs, launches, lining up behind a car that has the code to get in, and then they're just following them in one after the other, one after the other. And it's driving some people nuts.
Now that's
unbelievable.
lake people they're in charge of that and stuff, overseeing that.
The other observation is we know that Pierce County Sheriff does not patrol at night. They don't do it except on the 4th of July or by other exceptions. And the Bonney Lake Patrol has been, given the pressure that you're on for the park, Bonney Lake Patrol has been extraordinarily effective this year. One day last week before, there was a night patrol on the lake, and people were absolutely astounded.
Yeah, we heard about that.
There.
Yeah.
And number 2, that they were active. And turn on those blue lights, and people started going in all different directions. And it was.
I've been on the boat and I've seen the problems out there.
Yeah,
You know, people really don't care, the weights and so on, moving buoys and all of the problems. I've seen it.
you know, the buoy that we depend on to protect our piece of property has moved. That's just, we'll talk to the Marine Services about that, but the wakes and wake boats and waves crashing into the bulkheads is amazing.
Yeah.
And that other group that I was talking about, the Boating Advisory Commission, likely to come out with a report before the end of the year that address specifically wake boats.
Well, I appreciate your comments. You know, we do everything we can. We take it very seriously and make some changes there. We're getting close to our time here. Anything else from discussion?
No, thank you for letting us talk.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
We greatly
You,
appreciate it.
you and I have talked before, and I like it. Appreciate it.
Got a comment here.
I do have something if I have just.
Yeah.
Okay. I mentioned to you all a couple of months ago that we had submitted a pre-application to the state for an emergency generator for this facility, for a grant for a generator, just to see if they would consider it. And we have received an official invitation to apply for the
Oh,
grant.
that's exciting.
So that doesn't mean we'll get it. So I wanted to walk you guys through it really quickly and just make sure that we have support for the process, because it's a very short timeline and turnaround.
Okay.
So it's the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, and it's related to the disaster declaration for back in January when we had all that flooding and there were some slides and things that happened mostly along the coast. We had some pretty strong weather coming from a winter storm, and it really nailed the coast. So we aren't a prioritized county, but we're still eligible to apply under it.
This is through Washington State?
So it's a FEMA grant.
Oh, it is.
Yep,
Okay.
but we apply through the state, and then from the state sends it to FEMA. So we won't know the total amount of the grant funds that are available until a year from the declaration. So they won't even know exactly how much money is available until March of 23. But at the time that the estimate came out, it was somewhere between $4 and $5 million that would be available for grant funds to be dispersed throughout the state. Anytime you apply, well, all federal grants are always reimbursable. They're reimbursement-based grants, so you do what you need to do, and then they reimburse you. And typically,
Okay.
FEMA does it quarterly, so you submit reports, they send your money back. They're pretty expedient about the process.
Where we would purchase the generator and then, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
And they would
and
reimburse?
labor and all that stuff
Okay.
that would be involved. So, but we would do quarterly reports, and so as we're spending, they would be reimbursing. We wouldn't have to wait for the whole thing to be.
Okay.
It's also typically a 3-year performance period, and that's from the time we're notified of the grant opportunity, which was in June. So the 3-year clock started in June. So by the time we would even know if we were getting the grant, we would have about a 2-year period of performance to put the generator in. So the way that they do their their hazard mitigation grants, 75% of the project would be covered by FEMA, and then the 25% is split in half by the jurisdiction and the state. So that means we have a responsibility of a total cost of about 12.5%. But our portion of that also, we can count like our staff time that's dedicated to doing the project, and any monies that we put towards a contractor or anything like that we have to do separate from what we're doing with FEMA. We can claim all of that, and it's all in how we write the grant. So it's a phenomenal opportunity, and especially since the city's never actually been able to receive a grant.
Yes, because with John Vodovich already, details, we can add to the new budget. You discussed with John?
Oh, yes, he told me to
Okay.
bring it up to you
Okay,
guys
good.
today. So,
Excellent.
yes.
Hopefully
He
it'll be in
couldn't
our
be
budget
here or
that
we
way.
would.
Yeah, he's out of town, I know.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Regine, I have a question.
Yes.
So if there was an installation of a generator, what is it going to be able to power? Is it going to be able to power everything?
Oh, yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay. Okay.
So I pulled together a team last week and
Yeah.
said, we need to understand what we're even up against. We need to understand size and scope and fuel storage and how much fuel and all of that for a generator.
Yeah.
The conversation we were having was that it would be able to run this entire building,
Okay.
everything in it. We're looking at a minimum of 3 days, so 72-hour runtime on the fuel that we would store. But I am confirming with FEMA that just making sure there's not a longer time period that they expect. I don't believe that there is.
Is that what you mean by the performance period? This 3-year performance period window that they're telling you to have?
3 years is the time you have to complete the project.
Okay.
Yeah. So that includes everything from applying for it and being awarded it to installing it, and getting it up and running. If for some reason, one of the things that we brought up at the meeting was supply chain is an issue right now. And so, if the supply chain were to say delay the receipt of a generator, then we can ask for an extension
Oh, okay.
just to
And
cover
they
that.
usually give those to us too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we choose to go forward, the full application is due by September 16th, which normally we have a 3-month turnaround. We do not this time. It's only about 6 weeks from notification. Backup generators are an eligible project under this, which is why we were selected to move forward. Part of the application itself before we even started is 21 pages long. So I don't want to bombard you all with the full application yet. But through that application process, we have to show how we're, when we aren't able to operate here in this facility, how does that impact disadvantaged members of the community or customers that use the services and depend on it? How does it address community lifelines and critical infrastructure, which I think we can all see that. We have to discuss additional hazardous risk reductions and things that we're able to do utilizing that project. Show collaboration and partnerships, which, just with the court alone, the fact that we have other cities that do court here, we meet all the criteria with this project. So, when we wrote the pre-application, we just looked at the generator costs for the new public services facility and said, Ryan and I, and said, okay, they were about 500,000. Let's ask for 750,000 as a starter point.
Mhm.
I don't have a full cost yet because obviously we would have to go through sourcing and all of that for our application. But if we were looking at $750,000 grant, our 12.5% would be $93,750. The other thing we can request for above and beyond what's listed here is up to 5% of the grant costs we can request in what's called subrecipient management costs. So that's the management costs not to manage the project, but to manage the finances of it, like all the paperwork that's required and all of that could go back into the system for managing.
Good job.
So thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Make sure you bring back to this group what you've gotten so we can make them to finance instead too for us to.
Do we need to approve something or?
I don't have anything that you can really approve yet, but John just really wanted me to make sure that you guys are okay with me moving forward with the application.
Please do.
I think I still have a couple of
Go ahead.
questions though.
Please do.
So the generator itself, not any of the other costs, would be around 500,000. That was kind of the estimated cost. Or
That
would
was generator, fuel.
okay. The entire
install.
project. Okay.
Yeah.
My other
Yes.
question about that then is, just so I understand.
Yep.
This generator would then be purchased, installed for the ability to be able to run 72 hours this building.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Part of what we still have to do, like I said, is really scope out the size of the generator that would be needed, where we would put it,
Okay.
all of that stuff. So there is a lot of work to be done around it.
Okay.
And we just had an initial meeting last week so I could get our electrician, an engineer, and Drew Fonda, what's his
He's an engineer.
Engineer. So that they could start really looking at, okay, what do we actually need and where could we put it so that we can
Is
start
it
that process.
possible to run the generator longer than 72 hours? Because I just think if there is a major disaster and we need a generator.
That's just the size of the fuel tank,
Yep.
which you can
Right.
fill in and have
Okay.
that generator run continuously.
Right,
just
as long
by
as you are
refilling the fuel.
refilling the fuel,
Yeah. And we
if
are,
there's access to
and we
fuel.
aren't
Public
set
works.
there
They
yet.
have their
That's-
tank of public works, so.
Oh, okay.
That's still what Drew and Bill and Mike are looking at is
Okay.
more fuel, could it
Okay.
go longer? So we were just looking minimum 3 days.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Natural gas.
I don't know yet.
We're getting close to
Whoever
5
sourced
o'clock,
it.
guys.
Mhm.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
it, right now at this point, is the,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, that would be helpful. Because the police station, if you do eventually
Correct.
power,
Yes,
you're getting a new one, I believe, at this
yes.
point.
For the
They are.
freezer.
We only have 3
Yeah.
facilities that have a generator.
Yes.
Ryan.
And, you know, above and beyond emergency management in this facility, I mean,
We're
there
still
are a
going.
number of critical functions of this facility. I mean, court alone
Yeah.
is significant.
We had to cancel court because we had no power, and especially if we had like a jury.
Well, the main
Okay.
feed is on 410, so we've got the backup feed in that part of town, which comes in once it's switched over. But this one, this main switch here, especially when that one gets knocked out by ARCO,
Yep.
it's the whole run down to Costco. So
My first day here, the power went out, and I looked at Ryan. Did he duck back out?
He did.
Mhm, yes, he
I
did.
was meeting with Ryan, and he was talking to me about the city, and the power went out. And I said, "We're not on a backup generator in this facility." And he said, "No, not yet." Cool, let's find a grant.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so did you have any other questions?
No,
though?
that sounds great.
Okay.
Mhm.
I mean, I am more than happy to send you all the documents if you want to read through them, but they are extensive.
I'm going to trust that you're
Okay.
answering the questions to the best of your
I'm sure they'll have
Okay.
some more for you later, though. These ladies are very inquisitive.
So,
I
we'll
do
move
like the
forward.
idea of natural gas.
I also
Yeah,
do.
Because
We'll
that's
look at-
replenishable
We'll
quite
look at all the
easily.
options.
Yeah.
So we'll move forward with the application, and then we have time to bring it to the safety, just because there's a meeting, I don't know, right before we
Okay.
have to submit it.
Okay.
So we could bring the full application to you all at that point.
Thanks for looking into it.
Thank you. Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Regine.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Anything
Thank
else?
you.
We're adjourned.
Nope, we're
Yeah.
adjourned. Yeah.
I
We
got
got
my
a
ex-
new